Fifth episode opens on an eerie note as the Salem Seven descend on the witch's road. They're whispering Agatha's name, crawling through the leaf-covered ground along the winding road, when they come across an item that looks like a black stone on the ground. As one of the witches brings it to their nose, the scene cuts to Lilia, who is asleep on the ground alongside the rest of the coven. It seems that she had a vision in her dream of the seven hot on their trail. "They're coming. We have to go," she warns, ominously, explaining that they'd left the door to the road open after using the summoning spell in Agatha's basement. Finally, we also get an explanation as to who the Salem Seven are. As Lilia explains, when Agatha killed her original coven, as shown in WandaVision, she spared their children. They became, as Rio so aptly describes, a feral, hive-minded coven bent on revenge. The moral of the story, kids, is always finish what you started. Also, mercy is overrated, Agatha says as she runs around the corner, clearly in a hurry to escape the Salem Seven again. But it's too late to run. The Salem Seven are already surrounding them, and without their magic, they'll need a practical means of escape. Teen suggests brooms, which the coven brushes off at first, but eventually gives into, considering they have no other options. They hex a few roots from a tree and start the incantation in a hurry, as the seven is literally on their tail, jumping on the brooms as they take flight. The only way to survive will be to get off the road, so they take to the air. But pretty quickly, the road forces them back down to the ground as they reach the next trial. They run inside the cabin to escape the witches on their tail, and suddenly they're all dressed in 80s-inspired attire. Luckily, it doesn't seem the Salem Seven can get inside, so they'll need to complete this next trial and be on their way before the seven figure out how to get to them. Rio says this is Agatha's trial, given the blood moon outside, which indicates that the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. The best person to commune with the dead is someone who's put so many in the grave, Rio explains. Just then, Teen finds a Ouija board, and the clock starts ticking. They've got 30 minutes to figure this out. After Teen reads the rules of the board, they begin. The spirit spells Emrashart, and before they've got time to process what that means, Agatha is possessed by Mrs. Hart. But wait, she's not actually possessed. She's just being typical Agatha, distracting everyone from her own fears and vulnerability. When the group calls her out, she sits down to try again, and this time, she needs to take things seriously. So who are they really talking to? Death. What does it want? Punish. Who? Agatha. Scared, the women pull their hands off the board, but it's too late. Lights begin flickering, papers fly everywhere, and the board shoots off the table. Things settle down when Jen yells, "Punish Agatha!" She thinks that's the only way to get past the trial. Agatha tries to convince them otherwise, but her coven starts to agree that maybe, after everything she's done, Agatha deserves to be punished. Teen is the only one who defend her. Unfortunately, familiars don't get a vote, Jen says. The lights go out, and Agatha hides from the coven. As they're circling the cabin looking for her, they hear heavy breathing. Teen looks up to discover a decrepit-looking Agatha perched on the ceiling. Her skin is gray and cracked, her hair is sticking every which way, and she's got a feral air about her. She jumps down to the ground, her limbs cracking as they turn in unnatural ways. She's possessed for real this time. She goes after Jen, strangling her against the wall, when Lilia turns the lights on, making her disappear. Just then, a ghost appears. She identifies herself as Evanora Harkness of the Salemites. She's Agatha's mother, and she was possessing her daughter. Ghosts typically have unfinished business, so the coven asks Evanora what she needs. She tells them they must finish the witch's road without Agatha, the best, and really only, way to punish her. She wants the group to leave Agatha in the cabin with her. Rio tries to refuse, and a teary-eyed Agatha asks her mother, "Why do you hate me still?" "You were born evil," Evanora says. "I ought to have killed you the moment you left my body." Oof. Nobody knows what to say to that. Jen insists they need to leave the cabin and leave Agatha behind, but Agatha begins pleading with the coven to save her. That's when Evanora possesses her again, moving to chase the other witches out of the cabin, but Alice has other ideas. She steps in and summons her powers, directing them toward Agatha and expelling Evanora from her body. And that's when Agatha begins to siphon Alice's powers. The Ouija board begins moving again, and Teen runs over, demanding to know which spirit is with them now. Nicholas Scratch, Agatha's son. Just as time is running out on the clock, Agatha stops siphoning when she hears her young son's voice pleading, "Mom, stop." A new door opens, indicating they've passed the trial, but it appears to be too late for Alice. She has literally had the life sucked out of her. Everyone, even Teen, is now anti-Agatha. Teen pleads with Jen and Lilia to help save Alice, but they tell him it's too late. They leave the cabin, where Agatha summons her magic, secretly realizing she has her powers back. Teen confronts her, and Agatha insists that she couldn't control the siphoning, but Teen doesn't believe her. Meanwhile, Jen and Lilia have resigned to the fact that this was a power grab for all of them, and they can't exactly be mad that Agatha took an opportunity to get her magic back. So that's what it means to be a witch? Killing people to serve your own agenda? Teen asks, insisting, "Not for me." Agatha smirks, becoming quite callous as she whispers, "Are you sure? You're so much like your mother." Looks like Agatha has figured out who Teen is. Or, at least, she thinks she has. Agatha's words anger Teen, whose own blue magic begins crackling from his fingertips. Jen and Lilia, whose eyes have turned blue, seemingly possessed by Teen, grab Agatha and throw her off the road, letting her sink into the mud that nearly took Mrs. Hart at the beginning of the road. He then sends Lilia and Jen flying off the road as well, sinking into the ground. Cut back to Teen, who is now donning a crown that looks a lot like that of the Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff. Looks like we finally know his real identity.